Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hello, everybody. Welcome along to the Rangers Rabble podcast. Thankfully, Rangers have given us some extra content to speak about tonight. Yanis Hadji, according to the manager, will be leaving the football club. Oscar Cortez will be out for around 45 weeks. We've got Kiev tomorrow night. We can look back at the Hearts game. Loads and loads to talk about. So welcome along to your Monday Night Rabble. I am joined by Alan, Brian and Ian. Brian, it's the first time I think I've spoke to you this season. How are you, my friend? And he starts off on mute.
And you're on mute.
There we go. He starts off on mute. Great start.
Straight away. Out of practice. Yeah, it's been a while, as you can see. But nothing's changed on the park, I'm afraid. Same different season, same rubbish. So lots to get.
It's one game, Brian. It's one game.
Well, the bookies have paid it.
That's a smart commercial move by the bookies.
Correct.
Smart
100%. Correct. All's well. Just off a week's annual leave, so we're going to get stuck into this tonight.
Oh, I'm glad you are, because I think it's going to be another one of those slow, depressing evenings, unless anybody out there in the comments wants to put some nice happy topics in for us to talk about. If somebody can come up with something that we haven't discussed yet, a happy topic for us to get stuck into, then we shall. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure you're following the podcast across all social media outlets that we have, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. I don't know if there's anything else. I don't know anymore. But Ian, let's jump straight into it. Cortez. We'll probably, no doubt, go back to having a slight discussion about the Hearts game. There's only so much more, I suppose, you can really talk about it. But one of the biggest things that came out of it, obviously, was Cortez going off injured. We were all slightly worried that it might be quite a long-term injury, considering what happened last season. 45 weeks isn't the worst.
It's not the worst, because we were initially, the initial kind of rumours of the kind of noises that were coming in around Ibrox was it was potentially until January and then maybe the full season. So when you hear 4 or 5 weeks, it doesn't sound bad, because that's when we should be kind of getting better anyway. So a good time for him to come back. But it was a pleasant surprise on that one. And you can see the report went on to say he was injured in the collision, which you often do get injured when you're not fully committing to collisions. And that's really kind of what happened with Cortez, to be fair. Ian.
What did you say to us before we started?
Don't let me defend Cyril Dessers.
No. About Cortez, it was 4 or 5 weeks to what?
Is what?
It was 4 or 5 weeks.
Oh yeah. So I said the 4 or 5 weeks will be just enough time to get the shit stains off his shorts from facing Taylor at the weekend there. So, but I didn't want to say that live. But if you want me to throw it in, fair enough. You know.
I know. And look, he didn't have the best game for the length of time that he was on, Alan. But he will be a very, very, very important player for us this season. I hope. He did show in glimpses last season before his injury what he can do. He's only going to get better. He's a young boy. Everybody has off games. So the fact, and also, it's such an important part of the manager's team. Wingers, it's such a massive part of his game plan that the fact that it is only 4 or 5 weeks and we get him back, it can only be a good thing. Alan, there's been so much negativity surrounding Rangers for various reasons. All fair enough. It's fair. But you have to try and take the positives when you can. And albeit 5 weeks out isn't the best for any player, I get that. You want players in the team, you want them getting their fitness up, their match sharpness up. But if we had lost Cortez for what was getting talked about for half a season, that's bad news.
It really would have been. I'm disappointed he's still going to be out for 4 or 5 weeks. I think the run of games we've got coming up with European games and then games at Hampden against Marlows, Johnson, Ross County. Oscar Cortez could have really gained some sharpness and run him up there. But 4 or 5 weeks is a massive bonus compared to. There's talk yesterday he was going to be out for the season, let alone just Christmas. So I'm delighted with that news coming at the press conference.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll go on and talk about Balogun's doing the press conference, so I'd like to think I'll maybe see him being brought in to the team for tomorrow night.
Just because somebody does a press conference, well, doesn't always mean necessarily that they start. And we will come on to talk about the Kiev game in a wee sec. He probably will start after the Suter Davies fiasco, if you like, or whatever way you want to describe it against Hearts. Yeah, we did keep a clean sheet, so yeah. But Brian, I love this comment. I absolutely adore this comment. Danny O'Donnell. Cortez injured is just another chance for someone else to shine.
Brilliant.
Come on, Brian.
Well, another chance for Scott Wright to.
Oh, come on, Brian. Come on.
Sorry.
That was my answer too.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's all it's going to mean. It's just going to be Scott Wright just trudging up that right wing all over. That's all it's going to mean.
It's going to be a short pod.
It's, it's kind of, start of the season, you're wanting, new signings to bed in. And that team on Saturday, we only had Barron starting, who was the new signing. Everybody else is either not fit or wasn't eligible or whatever they were doing. Cortez coming back felt like a new signing because obviously he played a few games at the start of the sort of back end of last season after he signed and then got his injury. So it felt like Cortez was a new signing. So, it was a bad one to happen. But as we all said, we all thought it was the dreaded ACL word that was going to come out and that was going to be him for the season. So it's only 5 weeks. So there's a silver lining in every injury. So we've got to take that little bit of crumb of comfort that it's not an ACL and it is only 5 weeks.
I mean, Brian, you're killing me here, man. You're absolutely killing me. I was just looking for some kind of positivity before. I've got people in the comments shouting about how negative the rabble is and blah, blah, blah. And I just wanted some... Ian, I've got a little bit of positivity for you, right?
Give me it.
Philip Clement has said on Oscar Cortez, he will be an important player in the future for this club. It is a blow, but it is part of football for every club. We need to focus on fast rehab, right? And this is the point. The quality in our rehab is better than last season. So we know he will come back even better. So I dig at the medical department for last season and Clement saying that this season is a different story.
Okay, but that's the same medical department that threw the guy back on for the second half when he was clearly injured.
But if the player says, I mean, come on, guys.
You shouldn't have brought me on today. I'm just raging still.
He said the player said he was ready. And how many times have we seen over the years when a player says, no, I'm fine, I can play, he plays?
Yeah.
Go on, dig me
Got another bit of positivity. Taylor from Hearts has just tweeted he's glad it's only 4 to 5 weeks he's out for.
It's killing me. It's absolutely killing me.
He's it's good news, and essentially the shit show that we have been in terms of our injuries and our continuous injuries to the same players, same type of injury that we've been getting. It's good to have a new outlook on these things because that was certainly reflective on our overall standing last year. Of course it has. How you equate it to points, we'll never know, but certainly had an impact, our injuries last year, on key players at the wrong times. And that's, again, only a good thing. Look, bad luck begodes bad luck, and we're right in the middle of that mire just now, right in the middle of it. And we just need to break it. Just blinkers up, work through it, don't listen to the noise, and eventually we'll hopefully come out the other end of this. So I'm not, as much as I'm, giving it the woe is me type thing, as many Rangers fans are, you've got to expect that there'll hopefully be some light at the end of the tunnel, as hard as it is to see some at the moment.
You're still just trying to get over the shame of going to a Taylor Swift concert. That's what it is with you. That's the problem, isn't it?
Mate, that was the highlight of my weekend after watching the Hearts game.
Another positive, Alan, I suppose, is Ngami training with the first team. Hopefully he can get up to speed quickly, get in and around the team, and that's another option we have up front.
Well, let's double up positive, because like Zach Lovelace, it was also back in training with Ngami. So both of them young players, lots of promise, lots of hype about them. So let's make sure their recovery gets finalised and done properly, and hopefully both are options added to the squad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking for a bit more positivity, guys. I'm not going to lie. I'm just looking for something. I am absolutely fed up of. Somebody's put in the comments, I'm just fed up of Rangers being shite. And I think that's what it is.
Exactly.
I'm absolutely fed up with it. And Brian, as a few people have said, the boy looks a unit. I'm hoping, beyond hope, that it's not another 4 or 5 weeks before he's ready to feature in the first team. Because as we discussed before we came on, people can say what they want about Cyril Dessers. You can be for him, you can be against him, you can be in the middle. He will score goals. He will sometimes score important goals. But he is not somebody who you can rely on to win you a title. So any help that we can get up front is badly, badly needed.
Absolutely. I think we said that at the start of last season, that Dessers couldn't be the sort of main man leading the team, and we ended up having that. And we all felt that we were a striker shy last season, and it kind of proved correct. So Ngami being even training with the first team's a big bonus. Obviously, nobody's really seen anything of him to sort of make any sort of judgment on him. But a lot of people, a lot of folk have said that he's built well. He's a solid lad. So we'll this is the sort of guy that he's very much a young lad, and he's getting thrown in the deep end potentially, and that's the worry. There's not a lot of backup behind Dessers. I mean, Danilo looked good when he first came. Then, of course, he got that bad injury to his head. So there's lots of ifs, buts, maybes, and potentials. But I'm afraid I've always advocated getting people that were first team starters rather than a lot of youngsters. And it's all right having potential when you're doing well, but potential's not much use when you're playing catch up.
I'm really confused by a comment, and I don't even think I could read it out, if I'm being honest. I'm going to try. In the 1990s, we signed Ole Kuznetsov and Oleksiy Mikhailichenko from FC Dynamo Kiev. Both these players were highly ranked for Ballon d'Or and played in the USSR. Now we can't sign shite because we are broke. Ian, we're not broke. The football club isn't broke. The world has, like you say, the world has changed when it comes to signings.
Yeah, absolutely. Christ, if you remember the very first Champions League qualifiers or leagues as they were, the 4 leagues, we were part of that. What was it, 1992? Was it?
Yeah.
Was it 92? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So that just shows you. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're not the only team in that group of 16 that have fallen from grace. If you think of Gothenburg, Marseille, I'm sure there's a couple others. But to be honest, we certainly, the spot, commercialism's taken over. And let's be honest, they're not interested in Scottish football. They don't care how big our fan base is worldwide. I mean, I remember, going to the, we were lucky. We got 4 tickets for the Manchester final because of time served, the season tickets, when they did it that way, the days before the confusing My Gels nonsense. And basically what happened was we went down to that. And, that was the biggest movement of people since D-Day. 250,000 people congregated, came from all over the world into the UK, into Manchester. And, I mean, even that couldn't attract a decent owner, a decent sponsor. When you see that type of support, the bottom line is we're just not sexy enough, attractive enough to
Speak for yourself.
That's I know. To encourage any type of real fiscal involvement in Scottish football, and there lies the problem. So we chip away at what we do. We punch way above our weight and get into that. Even that final in Manchester or the one in Seville, unbelievable, absolutely brilliant. But I mean, after Manchester, I thought I don't think we'll ever see that day again, and we did. So it's not impossible for us to do it. So going back to be a bit more optimistic, I mean, I think if we lean into Clement and I was looking at his track record today with Genk and Bruges and then Monaco in the end, I think it was it? But he's just he's been given a bit of faith. We've kind of given him the reins to build a system, and as bleak as it looks just now, I don't see any better option just now outside of external investment. External investment changes the goalposts. But I mean, let's be honest, if you guys were all sitting here with 100 million quid, how much of it would you spend in Scotland, never mind Scottish football?
I'd probably put most of it into Rangers. It's the sad thing about
exactly.
me. It's the sad thing about me.
Going back to the original comment, it's like saying we signed Chris Woods in 1986. Why are we not signing?
Exactly.
Jordan Pickford.
Yeah,
but Jack Butland's better, Brian. That's why.
Exactly, I know, but the point's relevant.
The point being, we had five of the current English internationals in the mid 80s to late 80s.
That was only because they get banned for Europe. That was just fortunate that they were banned for European competition, and we could obviously pay a bit, and we could pay a fair chunk of money.
Well, not entirely, because in 1992 they weren't, and we pushed Leeds out of the way. So commercialism hadn't taken over as much by that point. I think.
Yeah, but we already had those players in the team for those years. We wouldn't. Do you think the England captains coming to Rangers if an English club gets into Europe? Back then, I don't think so. Depending on obviously the finances and stuff. But I don't know how we're on this track. I don't know what's going on.
I know.
We're well off track. Here's a good question for you. This just became like a members show, isn't it? This is a good question for you. We've seen a lot of reports about John Fleck up at Alton Heavy, getting himself fit. Andrew Lamb channel member wants to know what's the reality of John Fleck getting a short-term contract. Alan, I could be completely wrong. It's experience. He's obviously converted into being a more central midfielder, which is obviously an area that we're looking at. But I don't see it happening. And I don't see it happening for a few reasons, but the main reason for me, whether it's just a 1-year deal till the end of the season, he's far too injury prone.
He is, and that's a concern. But probably low wages, a deal to the end of the season, possibly even a pay-as-you-play deal. It could be a low risk sort of way of bringing in some experience and leadership. We've obviously lost a lot of experienced players, which all probably came to the end of their time at Rangers, but that's a void in the dressing room. It does need filled from somewhere. John Fleck could probably do a job for us and would probably be a very low risk signing.
You mean helping the sports scientists and the doctors with injuries? Is that the job that John Fleck could? I mean, James Cameron, not another channel member, he's saying it. No, he's too injury prone. Have we not learned our lesson?
And I could just see all the medical team under the X-ray machine. Oh, come and look at this ACL; it's a bit, you know. But no, it's do you know what? 2 years ago, I would have said I'd have heard worse ideas, but now, nah, not for me.
In terms of experience, Brian, is there any? Could we level that at being a decent reason to maybe bring in a John Fleck? Whether he could only play 15, 20 games, how much of a wage would he want? Is he physically up to the Scottish League, carrying those injuries throughout his career?
We lambasted Jack for only playing 10, 15, 20 games a season. So to go and get Fleck to do exactly the same is pointless. Totally pointless. It's the definition of insanity, as I keep going on about. You keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
100%.
You know what I mean? This guy, as Ian said, a few years ago, you might have taken a chance on him, but 32, he's injury prone. I'm sorry, I just don't see it happening.
Somebody's got a program on in the back or something, because I keep hearing that boom, boom, and I don't know if maybe I'm just having a moment, or if anybody else hears that. If anybody in the comments could let me know if they hear that. It's either that or I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. Alan, CGM. Hadji played for the B team today, but we don't bother playing Cantwell. But Hadji gets a run. Interesting. I mean, I don't really know what to make of that comment, to be honest, because he's got a point. Because the managers came out today and said that Yanis Hadji will be sold. He will be leaving the football club. But yeah, he gets minutes in the B team and Cantwell doesn't.
I think Cantwell and Hadji are both in exactly the same position, and not just
except Hadji gets
in
minutes.
the park, but both are going to leave the club as long as somebody comes in for him this summer. I'm surprised that Cantwell wasn't involved just to get him some minutes, but you know, I'm more interested in maybe getting some game time for the likes of Devine and Rice, who we want to come and compete for a place in the first team. You know, sadly, Yanis Hadji and Todd Cantwell are clearly no part of the plans, and whether they're playing for a B team or no, you know, I think it's important that we just concentrate on getting them moved on before the end of August.
Right, and Ian, this is a strange one for me, right? Because no doubt, you know, Clement and Hadji will have had a conversation, and it's either been from Clement, I don't see you in my future plans, and Hadji's went, right, okay, I'm happy to go, or Hadji's went to Clement and said, no, I want to go. Whatever the situation is, Campbell's went and said, I want to leave. That's fine, okay, you want to leave, I'm going to sell you. But can these players not help the team while they're still here before they go? Is just because a player says, and as fans, we all go, doesn't he want to be here? Get him out. No, I don't care about him anymore. I want him at my football club. That's supporters. That's absolutely fine. But
I mean, for the hearing,
still do a job.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, of course, for the here and now, if you put these players in that team, would they improve it? The answer to that is simply yes, it would, right? But if we're to buy into the process, if we're to buy into the long-term plan that we're all getting sold here, then we don't want players playing that don't want to play, that have asked for a transfer. So to that end, then aren't you just setting back your future levels by playing people that have no future at the club? You know, so if you put Cantwell and Hadji in the team, is that not just giving less minutes to, you know, the maybe not the Cortezes, but the Barons and all the guys that have come in and looking to make a long-term commitment to Rangers? You know, I mean, sometimes, Cantwell and Hadji, Alan described it really well. They are very much in the same position, and sometimes for me, as much as I really like both the players on their day, almost it seems like for me, football's a bit of an inconvenience for them sometimes. They've got too much going on outside in their whole commercial world. They've got so much going on with, you know, Instagram and everything else that goes on. And to me, when it's more about that and less about playing for Rangers, then it's goodbye. But what the real danger is here, and Brian touched on it a minute ago, we're essentially going to have Tav, Dessers, Davies, Cantwell and Hadji's wages at the moment round like a Damocles round their neck for the next however till we get rid of them.
What on earth was that word? What was that
Damocles? Word? Don't even ask me what it means.
Did you finish school?
No, it did, mate.
There's not many people on the Rabble who finish school. I don't think there's many people watching who even. What does that word mean?
So
is
a
that
weight
fancy
around their
rope?
neck.
Is that
A weight around their neck.
What is an Damocles? What is that?
I need to look it up, but I'd embarrass myself. I'd embarrass myself trying to do it, you know. But it's the same as that changes to the handball in the box. I look it up and still not a fucking idea what it was about, you know. But it's the point being we're dragging around this big pot of cash as we progress, and the only way we're going to get better is to lighten that wage bill. And the 5 or 6 players that I named there are all the top paid players at the club. Mm-hmm. And they've made it clear, or they've made it clear, or we've made it clear that they're not part of the future. Either we don't fancy them or they don't fancy us, whatever it may be. But very good. And what do you call it? So he's we've just got to work it out. It's tough. I was speaking to one of my friends today who's been going to watch Rangers as long as I have, and he's just saying to me, Ian, I just can't see any light at the end of the tunnel just now. And I'm like, oh, don't worry, I know. It's like Neil Kira, you know what I mean? But it's we just need to lighten the wage bill, let Phil get on with his job, and look at it again in 3 or 4 months' time, you know. Take it from there.
How do we, Brian, get rid of that Damocles? How do we get rid of that? No, but look, in all seriousness, Brian, I'm trying to take myself away in terms of, if I'm not looking at this from a supporter point of view, if I'm looking at this from a manager point of view, because you know how I've been manager of various teams in Scotland and I've got a brilliant resume on Football Manager. If you're looking at Saturday against Hearts, right, do Hadji or Cantwell, and just in that game, the way it was going, whether from the bench or from the start, I know it's easy in hindsight to look back and say yes or no. Would they have made a difference in that game? And if the answer is yes, regardless of whether they want to leave the football club or not, while they're still here, while we can still get points, should the manager have used them, and should he use them until such times as they leave? Take the supporter away from it.
Mm-hmm. I think technically they would have made a difference. I don't think you can really say they wouldn't have, but the manager's then got a decision to make in the sense that he's got to trust these players, as in, you know, when he puts them on, he's got to expect them to perform. And we all know what it's like when you don't want to be somewhere, or, you know, if you're in a job you want to leave. A lot of people, rightly or wrongly, down tools and don't put in the performance or the shift that they should do. So there's always the worry, if the manager does play a guy who wants to leave, that he isn't going to perform like he should. So it's difficult. They should be playing. If they're still in the football club and they're still training, they should be in the football club and they should be contributing. But you've then got the manager's got to weigh up the fact that, does he trust him when he puts on the pitch? You know, is this player going to give me everything, you know, after what's happened? You know, I don't know if there's disagreements. I don't know if there is any sort of bad sort of blood between them. But, you know, it's a difficult one for the manager. He's really got a tough decision to make, because if he plays him and he doesn't perform, and that's when the sort of daggers will start coming for him.
Aye, but Alan, it's fairly simple. It's, you want to relieve, as a manager, you want as little pressure on you as absolutely possible, right? I don't know any top sportsman or top manager, right? Say you're Pep Guardiola's and your Jose Mourinho's of the world, right? They wouldn't be who they are without pressure, right? The top sportsmen love pressure. You don't want as much pressure on you as what would come on if, for example, we don't win the first game of the season. We go out against Kiev and we drop more points before we play them going into our first Old Firm game of the season, right? You want as least amount of pressure on you as possible, but you want enough pressure to keep you going, right? That's the way I look at it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
If I'm saying to you against Hearts with 20 minutes to go, we've got Cantwell on the bench. Aye, he's asked to leave, but do you know what? Let's throw him on and see if he can put himself in the shop window for other clubs out there looking at him, and B, make a difference and help us win the game. Fair?
100% fair. At the end of the day, we're paying them to do a job, and if they're still going to be here, I want them in the squad and contributing. The substitutions we've all obviously already talked about it. You talked about it on the reaction. We talked about the Hearts game on the members show last night, but we're needing a goal to go and win that game, and we have Danilo sitting on the bench. Doesn't he come off the bench? Would Cantwell or Hadji have been brought on, if they were on the bench? I think both are more than capable football players that could have maybe made a difference, maybe done something a wee bit different for the guys on the park. But, we need to find a way of making sure people are contributing. Ian talks about how much money these guys are on. We've had guys in the squad for the last few years on big, big money and contributing absolutely fuck all to the cause. And that has to change.
Yeah.
That was quite scary the way you swore there. There was quite aggression behind that, by the way. I actually jumped when you swore there. That was a wee bit. But then I suppose the opposite end of the spectrum, Ian, is if he throws Cantwell on and does nothing and we get beat 1-0, then he's put himself under far more pressure, I suppose.
Well, there's no reason at all. Alan's right to say, why don't you use these players? Well, that decision rests with Philippe Clement, because it's within his power to use these players. It's Philippe Clement that's decided not to use these players. So it's almost a moot point, isn't it? At the end of the day, which of course, if there was a better quality of player available that Philippe Clement fancied, he would for his own, his own survival, he would put him in the team, or so you would think. So for these guys not to be involved lies at the manager's door, because regardless of how the relationship is between Cantwell and Clement, or Hadji and Clement. Let's be honest. Clement's not even had a proper look at Hadji. He's not been near the team since Clement has taken over. So yeah, I think that conversation is one that Clement's obviously had with the two players. If we think they're better, then the argument is our questions to the manager: why aren't these better players in the team?
In terms, Ian, as well, of selling these players, we've discussed at length Cantwell. I don't know how sellable Todd Cantwell is. I've no idea. But on the opposite end of that spectrum, Yanis Hadji, regardless of how good or bad he's played for us, Ian, is an extremely sellable asset because there are certain clubs out there who are desperate for him.
Yep. By association of his father's name, his Pepsi deals, all the stuff that comes along in the Yanis Hadji gravy train. But listen, there's a real danger. I don't know. Someone mentioned it in one of the previous pods that we could end up with a lot of these guys that no one comes in for them. So who's come in for Tav? Nobody. Who's come in for Cantwell? No one. Cardiff apparently, but that's all going quiet. And who's come in for Hadji? I'm sure Hadji will find someone, but these guys, there's the best part of 85, maybe 75 grand a week, just sitting there in wages. And we're essentially hamstrung until these guys move on. And there's a real danger that we could be left with them. So there'll come a point where Clement has to sit down with Cantwell, Hadji, and say, look, I can't sell you. You're not doing yourself any favours sitting out in the cold. Why don't you come in, put yourself in the shop window and do what you can do?
And my worry is that could be the case for one or two. For how many years have we been trying to sell Scott Wright? And I'm not putting Scott Wright and Cantwell in the same breath, but trying to sell players, it's not easy nowadays. FFP's killing everything. And there's not going to be anybody in the Premier League looking at a Todd Cantwell like they were a few years ago. I think that boat's sailed. So it's going to be a wee bit of a worry if we don't get the deals, because that's a lot of wages. Like you say, that is a lot of wages sitting there.
I can feel my anxiety growing as we talk this out. This is
and do you know what? Actually,
all right before I come on here.
We raised the question last night on the members show. Abdallah Sima was mentioned as there was rumours circulating that Rangers were still interested in Abdallah Sima. Abdallah Sima is extremely interested in coming back to Rangers. And Brian, a question was asked, I think it was by Big Dave, it may have been somebody else, apologies if I've got that wrong, about the ability to bring Abdallah Sima back to Rangers. And if the Cortez injury was bad, would that then change the manager's transfer targets, the way he's going about the transfer window? 4 or 5 weeks isn't a long time in terms of an injury, but it's a long time in football. A lot can happen in 4 or 5 weeks. Abdallah Sima, we don't really know, Brian, about the transfer fee that it's going to be. Some have said 7 million, some have brought it down as low as 4 million. I don't think the wages are going to be much of an issue. However, the wages still at the club, like Ian mentioned there, Cantwell, Hadji, Ben Davies, there's at least, I mean, if we're being fair, between 80 and 100 grand of wasted wages at the football club. So,
yeah,
but taking all that into account with the Cortez injury, Brian, and the wages that we currently still have, is Abdallah Sima a plausible target for you?
Well, I'll tell you what, pound for pound, you're getting more out of Sima than you are for any of those lot. I mean, first game of the season at Kilmarnock last season, I panned him. I thought he was just dreadful. But I fairly ate my words. Last season, he scored important goals, a lot of assists. So, he was a handy player. As you say, the wages aren't going to be a problem because I think he was only on about 8,000 a week at Brighton. It was a really low wage. I was quite surprised. And there's numbers of anything between 4 and 8 million getting mentioned. Will it accelerate it? All depends again what Clement wants. I mean, is he in a position to do that? Or is the players like Hadji and Cantwell and co sort of hamstringing his going forward in the sense that he needs to get those wages shot before he can get other guys in, So, I mean, there was Hadji was getting talked about going Fiorentina. There was other, the obvious Turkish links going there. So, I fail to see Hadji will definitely get bought by somebody by August, middle of August. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't go very quickly because he's a guy that he's obviously had the bad injury. He went away on loan. I'm just kind of surprised that Clement didn't sort of look at him more in the sense that, he's not really had any chance to see him because he was on loan all last season, so he didn't really see him. Yeah. So I'm just kind of surprised he's obviously decided very quickly that he's not in his plans. So, but yeah, it's. I think the problem is there's a few guys that we're needing to get rid of that the wages are hamstringing the club in the sense that they need to get rid of them before they get them in. That's just personally what I think.
That is, Alan, what we discussed last night on the members show. It was a case of do we need to get rid of players before we bring in players in certain positions where we have enough. We mentioned like midfield. We definitely need to bring at least 1, maybe 2 in there, because right now we have literally Barron and Diomande. We're asking out injured. There's not a great deal of depth cover in the middle of the park. But in terms of those forward areas, does the 4 or 5 weeks for Cortez, does that change the manager's transfer strategy? Or is the fact that it is only 4 or 5 weeks just negate that completely? And I used that word. I used negate, Ian. Did you hear that?
Oh, nice. Still not as good as Damocles, mate. Nowhere near it.
I certainly think that Cortez only been out for maybe a month or so rules out as looking for a replacement. We'll move people about the squad and concentrate on other positions if Cortez has got to be back in 5 weeks' time. In terms of Sima, a lot of people in the comments mentioned Sima's prone to an injury or two as well. 6 million or so for somebody that you can expect is probably going to pick up a couple of injuries each season. That's a big risk. There's a comment there. But every position in our squad, there's probably 2 or 3 players already in the squad for it. We talk about lacking depth. The problem isn't sort of depth, it's the quality of depth we've got. But the numbers in the squad are just unsustainable. and not even from a financial point of view, just from a sort of management point of view, being able to manage that size and squad of players and keep people happy and keep people actually productive. You know, just isolating guys like Hadji and Cantwell that we've already spoke about, that's a choice of management. You've got to sort of manage these guys and encourage them and bring them around to your way of thinking, even if they don't agree with you. You know, you can still get some buy-in for these guys, and we need to make sure we utilise the squad. But I can totally understand we need to move players on because, as I say, we've got far too many guys here. That includes some of the younger players who are not too old for any age group football, so they're really part of the first team squad.
Yeah, I mean, the wage bill has been well documented, and it wasn't until it kind of broke our wage bill, I didn't quite believe it, that we had a higher, I don't know about now where a few that have left, etc., but we had a higher wage bill than Celtic, which to me is just incredible. It's just incredible because you look at any league in the world and 9 times out of 10, the team with the highest wage bill wins the league. It's the way that football normally goes. So that just goes to show the mismanagement in the team.
Atalanta had a lower wage bill than us, and they won the Europa League.
Yeah, well, you've got that as well. But a lot of that, I think, as well, but comes down to the teams that you're facing in your own league. There was the quality of your own league as well that you're playing up against every week. Atalanta in the Italian league, and folk can slag, and I know that the English podcasts and all that slag every other league bar England because it's the greatest league in the world, right? Blah, blah, blah. You can slag the Italian league all you like, but Atalanta are coming up against far better teams than what we are week in, week out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that plays a big part in it. As well, but I didn't actually realise how bad Sima's injury record was until people started mentioning it. So maybe I should keep my mouth shut about that. Ian, you had a question.
Yeah. Just going back to Alan there. He made a really good point though about Hadji and Cantwell. The manager has to give an explanation why he's not using them. That shouldn't go unanswered. Because you're right, they are better players than we've got just now, so there should be an answer for that, I think. But anyway, you've got £5 million. What do you spend? What do you spend on Shankland, or do you spend it on Sima? What do you do?
Right. Well, Brian apparently says that this is easy because he's put in our wee private chat that we've got on the site here. But it's easy.
You don't put an answer yet,
easy.
Yeah. Well, there's only one option, isn't there?
Well, I don't know. You tell us.
No.
Shankland, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah. He's getting.
You're spending $5 million on Lawrence Shankland.
If it was between those two players, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. Wait, just Sima 23, 22?
Don't know.
22.
Yeah.
£5 million wages. Lawrence Shankland
runs that
Shankland plays every game
for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
You want to spend £5 million?
Gives you a chance of winning the league, doesn't he?
And Sima doesn't.
Not the goals that Shankland would score, no.
All right, Alan.
I'm with Brian on this.
Of course, yeah.
No, listen, if
Me and my best pal Brian. Oh, I'm with Brian on this.
The comments are all saying Sima.
Thank you, comments.
No.
Carry on, Alan. I'm not listening, but carry on.
Listen, I'm not worried about going against popular opinion, but Lawrence Shankland will score goals in this Rangers team, and Lawrence Shankland scoring goals in this Rangers team will help us win the title.
What I will say straight back to you, Alan, is, and I get it's caveated with an injury. Who was our top goal scorer last season before he got injured?
Sima at the time.
Yeah, it was Sima, wasn't it?
Sima scored goals. I'd think Shankland's personality will add more to the squad as well. But you know, we need leaders. I spoke about losing sort of leadership and experience. I think Shankland would bring that in as well. It'd be nice to bring in both, but with Cortez and Cherny there, you expect the manager has him as his first choice. I'd spend the money on Lawrence Shankland.
Ian, you asked the question.
Well, for me, it's a no-brainer because there's every chance that the Lawrence Shankland saga will end with him walking over to Ibrox for a cut price deal and or nothing. So I'd spend it on Sima all day.
That's cheeky. That's cheeky. You never gave the context behind that there.
So, well, you don't need the context is there for us all to see.
Oh, that's
you know
cheeky, man. That's cheeky.
Young boy from Mount Vernon, big Rangers fan. I think he'll be at Ibrox. I wouldn't put my house on it, but I would certainly say there's a great chance that. There's been no offers for Lawrence Shankland as the Hearts CEO came out today. That's why I put that in the group chat. No offers. Never mind Rangers. No offers from anyone. And that's because I think him and his agent both know he's going to Ibrox. And to be honest, I would. Sima a lot younger than Shankland, and incidentally, I actually thought you could play Sima in that number 9 spot. He didn't really get a big enough stab at it, but if you had to put him in the number 9 spot, you could, as well as either side. So to me, there's more to Sima at the moment. He's younger, he's much more athletic. He does score goals, but in an ideal world, as Alan said, you'd like to see them both, as would I. But I would not pay £5 million for Lawrence Shankland.
No, near about that. 2-3 million, maybe, but 6 months you can get him for free. I'm not 100. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
CGM's comment spot on. Their Hearts would rather lose Shankland for nothing than taking 3 million from us, just out of spite.
Well, it might also be to help them in Europe, though.
Well, this is it.
But anyway, look, but Lawrence Shankland saga has been going on for nearly as long as the Vladimir Weiss saga, to be fair. So we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see what happens here. Tomorrow night, Brian, we face Dynamo Kiev in Poland. And Craig on Twitter, we've got a decent record in Poland, lads. How's that for positivity? I'm not going to say those names. But we've got a decent record in Poland, Brian. Albeit there doesn't seem to be much positivity kicking about today. And you're on mute.
I must admit, we have got a good record over there. We've done really well in Poland. So yeah, it's, although obviously not against Polish opposition, but it's a funny one. This, I wasn't quite sure. I'm still not sure how good Kiev are or how bad Partizan were. I don't really know.
Regardless, a 9-2 aggregate win in Europe at any point is a good result.
It's a good result, absolutely. But at the same time, I'm not still sure about the degree of how good Kiev have been sort of in Europe in recent times. I don't think they've been in the Champions League for a good long time either. So they're maybe just the same as us. They're starting to sort of build back up and start again, sort of stuff. So I don't know. As I say, I'm not a big follower of Ukrainian football, so it's just a case of we'll just have to wait and see. So Union Berlin beat them 3-2 in a friendly a few weeks ago, Martin. So there we go. So it's one of these ones that's you're kind of going in the unknown because you don't really see much of the Ukrainian football league. The only time you see the Ukrainian teams is if they're in Europe, so you only get glimpses of them. So it'll be a tricky one, obviously, because every sort of away tie in Europe now is not a gimme. So, but it'll help us in the sense that it's in Poland rather than in Ukraine, unfortunately for them. But for us, it'll slightly benefit with it not being like a home game as such.
Can I just say we've got over 800 people watching, so thank you very much to all those tuning in. If you could please, whatever you're watching on, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, like and follow or subscribe to the podcast. That would be great. Thank you very much for helping to support the Rabble. You can, of course, also, if you want to further support, become a member. Join button below. Take a look at the membership and see if it's something that you fancy. Sorry, Al.
I was going to say, is it a positive if Kiev scored 9 goals in the last tie, which suggests they're going to come out and attack? Is that maybe going to play in our favour?
Depends who's playing in defence, Alan.
Possibly, but I'm trying to put a positive spin on it.
Martin. We're trying to be positive here, Martin.
Alan, that's really positive. The team are about to play scored 9 goals. Fuck you, now. Do you know what I mean?
Well, if they're not then we can go and take advantage of the space. They'll leave it back, hopefully. We've got to look at any way that we can expose that team. because they're obviously got to be a dangerous team, but we have to focus on what we can do as well. I mean, we've got to go there with a game plan to score goals ourselves and win the game, then bring it back to Hampden and obviously give us a chance.
That is the question, though, Alan, is looking at that game against Hearts, we created a few chances. Where are the goals coming from in this Rangers team right now, Al? Because Danilo, and I don't really think it's been spoke about enough, didn't see any game time at all, Alan, against Hearts. Which, I mean, if people say it all the time, if he's not fit enough to play at all, he shouldn't be on the bench. So you've got to assume that there's a certain level of fitness here for him to make the bench. Even 5 or 10 minutes in the legs, 15 minutes in the legs, he got nothing.
That's what I'm saying earlier. Absolutely astounds me that he didn't come on for any length of time. When we have seen him pre-season, he's looked quite leggy still, and he's been back training on grass since the end of May. So I'm very surprised he's still so far away from even a moderate level of fitness where he can come on and play 5 or 10 minutes at Tynecastle. I definitely think we're going to struggle to see a great deal of football out of Danilo for the next few weeks if that's the level of trust the manager has in his fitness. But
hold on, that's a good point. That's another one. Massive wages. Let me write that one down. Danilo.
But he's making the right point, Ian. And
I know.
You were on the reaction with me for the Hearts game, Ian, and I think we briefly mentioned it and kind of moved on and kind of glossed over it slightly. You know, Danilo got 0, zilch, none, nada, not a minute on the park.
Listen,
and we're going to a Champions League game tomorrow, which if, for whatever reason, Dessers has to come off the park, he's going to have to then put on Danilo unless he puts somebody else on the bench for the B team with no competitive minutes.
I know. It's listen again. It's at the manager's door. If we can only assume Danilo's fit, and if he's fit and the manager's not choosing to play him, it's because he doesn't fancy it. You know, if for whatever reason, yes, he's just come back from a long-term injury, second time, but he's for whatever reason the manager must feel like he's not ready to play. Never mind, a cameo role. Never mind, 90 minutes, but. That has to change. There's no way. He's just had a pre-season. We saw him feature in the pre-season somewhat, but listen, he may well get on against Kiev. He may well come on for a short spell, but there'll be a reason. We've got to assume the manager's closer to these guys. There must be a reason why Danilo's not starting, or even featuring.
But why put him on the bench? If he's not a possibility to come on. And by the way, if against Hearts, if we were 3-0 up, it wouldn't be mentioned because you wouldn't have to bring Danilo on. The fact that we had needed a goal and you've got a £6 million striker on the bench. No,
well, maybe he thought to persevere with Dessers.
It wouldn't be a conversation though if he wasn't on the bench. Right, he's not fit, he's not ready, but he's on the bench.
I know. Again, it's a question for the manager, isn't it? It's a question for the manager. These guys that aren't featuring on big money, why? It's he maybe feels he obviously feels he's not match fit, match ready. I can only assume that because why on earth would you not introduce him to the game, especially when you're chasing a goal at Tynecastle? And that's kind of what you're looking for. Albeit, I didn't think Dessers did an awful lot wrong. Here I go defending Dessers again, but it's just like I don't know if I would have subbed off Dessers on at the weekend. To be honest, he didn't do an awful lot wrong, but
didn't put the ball in the back of the net though. Did not put the ball in the back of the net.
But interestingly, you mentioned that. How many shots do you think Hearts had versus ours?
I have no idea.
Hearts had
19. They had Hearts had 19 shots. We had 9. You know what I mean? On target, it was about the same, but shots at goal, 19 they had. So it's back the same old stuff, isn't it? Everybody's been saying it in the comments. It's the same problems: not shooting, not scoring. So why don't you bring on Danilo? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even obviously look. The press conference had started just as we were about to come on live, so I can only read the answers that the manager's given because I can't host and listen to a press conference at the same time, unfortunately. So I don't know fully everything that the manager has been asked, Brian, but he was asked about Robin Proper. I think that's how it's pronounced. And his answer was he is fit, but he said a very busy few days off the pitch he had to sort out since arriving in Scotland with his family. Now, sitting here right now, I don't know if he's turned around and said that, but then also said he will be featuring tomorrow. But to me, just reading that answer says to me that he hasn't gave a definitive he will be starting. But for me, he should be.
For me, he definitely should be. Yeah. I mean, this, he's getting things sorted out. I mean, obviously he's getting his digs sorted out or wherever he's going to stay, but I'm quite sure that really doesn't affect the mindset of playing football. Just get him in. I mean, this happens all the time with these guys moving clubs, and just these guys should be ready straight away. I mean, this is somebody said earlier in the comments. Ngami's spent $1.5 million on Ngami, and he's no fit. It's like, well, why sign him? Why do we do this? We should sign guys who are fit and ready to go. None of this. Oh, we'll be ready in a couple of weeks because he's not. Where's the professionalism in a footballer who is not keeping himself matched, like in a decent physical condition that he can't actually play, 90 minutes? Proper should be playing. There's no question about it. We need a guy like him at the back. I mean, I'd like to see him and Suter at the back because obviously, I think Proper would be the big sort of burly centre half, and Suter could be the ball playing centre half in a figure of speaking. As I say, I'm not exactly Davis's best fan either. So, but no, Proper should be playing 100%, no doubt about it.
Right, I don't know how well this is going to show up, but I'm going to try it anyway, just to show the importance of these Champions League games. So if everybody in the comments can let me know how this looks on screen, if it's readable, if it's not. But Scotland, I don't know if any of you have seen this, but Scotland's coefficient on Twitter released the fees involved in how well we do over the next 4 games, 2 teams. Right? Best way I can describe it. So, if everybody can see this okay, let me know. If not, I will put this full screen and I will get rid of us. In fact, I'll put this full screen now, right? So, I mean, Ian, I'll come to you with this. I mean, in terms of reaching the league phase would be the best, but we could make a minimum of £43 million, right? Yeah. If we just simply progress against Kiev, it's at least £16.5 million. Now, Celtic are guaranteed to already make euros. Sorry, I should say euros. My apologies. And Celtic are already,
incidentally,
again. So Celtic are already guaranteed to make 34 million euros this season alone. And by the way, Scotland's coefficient is actually really good on socials if you want to go and check that out. But again, Ian, that just shows actually when you look at just the bare numbers, how important that is that we reached this Champions League.
So you're telling me the balloon payment of last year that was it 5 million, wasn't it? Is now 12. Is that what it is if we get past Kiev?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
No, 16.
Did not know
16.
16. Wow, did not know that. I heard someone quoting 5 today. So yeah, but
16.29 million if we minimum earnings if we progress.
So there you go. There you go. Everything. I tell you what, if we don't get past this, there's going to be so many questions. I mean, about, well, you saw this coming. There was £16 million sitting there to get by a team that at worst you should be on a par with.
No, but I should say, sorry, I don't know if that's 16.2 million. If we lose this, I don't know. Do we go into the Europa League if we lose against Kiev, or is it the Conference League we go into if we lose against Kiev? I don't know. I would imagine the 16.29 million figure is if we do well in the groups.
Yeah. So it includes, it's not the balloon payment just for getting through.
No.
It's the
because if we lose against Kiev, the minimum that we can earn is 12 million.
Yeah.
But that 43 million number is massive.
Yeah, huge. And that's obviously the type of money that any club needs, but especially we need to even stick to the same game plan with bringing through the younger players. But the players that we sign for a bit of money need to be, arguably, we don't know completely yet, but maybe of a better quality. And that kind of money would give us the ability to do that, to build on next year. So, these qualifications, they come thick and fast, and they come way too soon for us. And if we don't, get past that Kiev, it then has a knock-on effect for another couple of seasons. While Celtic waltz in, incidentally, off the back of our endeavours in Europe. Brilliant. You couldn't make this up. You know what I mean? And essentially, bank that again. I mean, because they've not spent an awful lot of money preparing themselves for this Champions League that I can see, but the level of importance of this game is huge, and if we don't get past it,
I should just cut in. Sorry, I think the 16.29 million figure is the minimum you can make once you've finished the Europa League group stage.
That's what I thought it to be.
Yeah, the league phase, because it's all changing this season. So if we fall out of the group stage of the league phase of the Europa League, and that's it for Europe, then we can.
So am I right in saying, and maybe Alan will know about this, he's really good at this kind of stuff. Am I right in saying that they've taken away a little bit of money from the Europa League and chunked it into the Champions League? Because I think a good run in the European League, the Europa League, was in excess of that previously. So have they moved a bit of chunk of cash over Champions League now?
Alan?
No, that I've seen. I think we're the extra money is because we're going deeper into competition.
We're
making quite a bit of money for the last 16's quarterfinals and so on.
So how many games is that £16 million based on?
That's the 8 games you get. It's a league phase now, so it's not group stage anymore. So you play 8 games. I think is it 4 home, 4 away? I think everybody plays against 8 different teams. And it's a league phase, and then I think in the Champions League, I think it's the top 8 go through to the last 16, and then there's so many more go through to playoff. So if we finish bottom, if we go into the Europa League and finish bottom of that group phase and are completely out of Europe, that's the 16 million. The 43 million is if we get through to the Champions League and finish bottom of that group phase, then we'll make 43 million.
Worst case scenario.
The money's actually went up. The money's went up in both the Europa League and the Champions League.
Well, that's good. But the disparity between the two is huge, isn't it?
And you'll obviously have the sort of ticket sales and stuff like that as well thrown in on top. So,
yeah, and at that 34 million that Celtic are already guaranteed to make, regardless, I think that just goes to put a point on the fact that we should have been, Alan, in a better position than what we are to approach these games against Kiev. And we will quickly discuss, when you've made your point, about if we do beat them, who we could possibly face in the next round.
Ian made the point these games come too early for us, but why are they too early? They're the same time out every single year, and we know when we have to be ready. It's no down to when the games are, it's down to us not being ready. That's a failing on us and our football department. There's no excuses, and there's far too many excuses get used at our club these days. We know when the qualifiers are. We spoke about it in the members show last night. If we make an arse win in the league, we're going to have a harder route into Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So we're paying the price of bottling it last season, and we're not well enough prepared for this game. Now, if we want to compete and make any sort of showing in Europe, teams like Danilo, Kiev, teams like FC20, teams like Salzburg are teams that we have to go and compete with and beat. So I think potentially both ties are very winnable, even for us in the position we're in right now. We have to go out there and attack these games and go there with a wee bit of confidence and a wee bit of belief, which is going to be a hard sell for Clement to actually put that into the team, because They're not on a good run dating back to the last few months of last season, but he's got to pick them up. He's got to take the sort of team by the scruff of the neck, and he's got to show why he's been given an extended contract. He's got to drag this team through these games and make that money.
Surely the players in themselves want to play in the Champions League. That should be enough incentive. That should, personal pride should be more involved in this. If the players are wanting to make any aspirations of going higher than Rangers, this is the sort of competition they've got to operate in and do well in. So if all these players that are, we've heard somebody, can't remember which player it was, saying, "Oh, I'm wanting to play for Chelsea." Well, if you want, who was it?
Yeah,
Raskin. Yeah. So if Raskin's coming out on chat that he's wanting to go and play for Chelsea, this is the sort of tournament he's got to operate in. So personal pride should be enough for these guys to play and try and qualify.
Absolutely, but the manager's got to pull that together into a cohesive unit and use the players' motivation, add to that the players' individual motivation, mould them as a unit and get them through these games.
Well, just on that, Leon Balogun, and I don't know what the question exactly was that was asked to him in the press conference tonight, but Balogun said people can speak about finances, but I have never played in the Champions League before, and it's a massive personal motivator for me. All the squad want to play at this level. So that's kind of taking on in from what Brian's just said there about personal motivation. And many players can come out and say what they want, but when it's a player like Leon Balogun, you believe him that he does want to play at that level because he's never played at that level before.
Yeah, listen, if you're hearing that from Leon Balogun, you absolutely take it for red that he means that. Whether or not some maybe newer members of the squad would have such conviction, I'm not sure, because we don't know enough about them yet, So if Leon Balogun's speaking on behalf of Leon Balogun, I absolutely believe that. He's been nothing but a credit to us. And incidentally, his ripe old age, when he came on against Hearts, we instantly looked better at the back. So I've got no qualms about listening to Leon Balogun's motivation, and I absolutely believe it. And I'm listening. I'm sure there's every young player in there. It's their dream to get into the Champions League phase, especially this new structure, the way it's set out. But Alan made a very good point. It's all on Philippe Clement to do this, and it literally lands at him for these motivational and tactical positionings to get us past this. And I think it's a big ask. Alan, I'm glad Alan was very upbeat and thinks that the games are very winnable. I'm not quite as convinced at the minute, but I hope he's right. I hope he's right. I watched a little bit of the Kiev game. They generally play a 4-3-3, and like all these Eastern European teams are very well drilled. They've got the structure, and we're the opposite of well drilled just now. We may well have better individuals. We don't entirely know yet, but the assumption is, the assumption is we have better individuals. But Kiev, if they're not anything, they're organised, and they've got goals all over the pitch.
It's really difficult to tell at this time. You're right. It's so difficult to gauge the levels between teams at this stage of the season. You can probably really only go on past performances like last season, which even again then doesn't tell the full story of a new season. But within saying that, Brian, let's say for talking's sake, let's be positive. We beat Kiev over 2 legs. We're into the next round, and I'm only talking about this quickly because you know why I'm talking about this. For me, Salzburg are massive favourites to beat 20. Right? Salzburg have got so much money behind them. Red Bull Salzburg in it. So they've got a lot of money. They're the massive favourites. But if somehow 20 manage to put them out over 2 legs, it will be proper against Lammers, Rangers against 20. And you would not going on how our luck is, you would not put money on a Sam Lammers 90th minute winner, would you?
You just know it's happening, don't you? You just know it's going to happen. I must admit, I've been looking at the leagues, and Sturm Graz pipped Salzburg to the league last year, and Twente finished third, which was a good bit ahead of Ajax. I know Ajax had their issues last year, but so I mean, it's going to be, well, first things first. Let's just get past Kiev first. Let's not worry about Salzburg or Twente yet. We've got to get past Kiev because that'll be a tough game as well. They've just rattled, you say, Alan Martin, they just rattled nine past Partizan Belgrade. So,
absolutely.
That's going to be the first port of call. And tomorrow's going to be either a big eye-opener or just...
Is there any way, Brian, to gauge the way the game's going to go tomorrow? Is there any way to gauge it at all?
No. I have no idea how it's going to go.
Do you think the manager's going to set up defensively? Is he going to set up attackingly, balanced? I mean, how is he going to approach this game?
I think ordinarily enough, we actually do really well when we're away from home in Europe. We actually do a lot better than at home for some reason. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays like a bit of a counter-attack sort of scenario where contains them and tries to get them on the break, and maybe I utter the word set piece very loosely, but corners and free kicks aren't exactly our forte. But it's going to be a counter-attack game. I would assume, being away from home.
We scored the second most set piece goals last season in the league.
I find that hard to believe. I really do. I find that hard to believe. I can't even remember one header that we scored from a free kick or a corner.
Penalties as set pieces.
Unless they're counting penalties as set pieces, I then maybe.
But no, I'm thinking it's going to be a counter-attack sort of approach. Just hope to contain initially and then hitting the counter-attack.
Just finally then, before we go, folks, I'll ask everybody watching, get it in the comments. It's a simple yes or no. And I'll ask the three guys on the pod as well. Just a simple yes or no, gents. I'll start with you, Alan. Are you confident for tomorrow? Yes or no? We don't want any explanation. Yes, you are. Ian? Ian can't hear us. Okay. Brian? Yes or no? Yes. I don't want any explanation.
Yes.
Yes, you are. Right. Okay. Well, Ian has lost the ability to hear. So, just on that note, I think we will leave it there. How did I know that Curry wouldn't be positive for tomorrow? How did I know that? And by the way, actually, very, very quickly, is a draw tomorrow a good result?
It's not the worst, is it?
Would you take a draw? Right now, would you take a draw?
Mm-hmm. I'll take a draw now.
Yeah. You talk about a draw. Would you say a 0-0 draw or a score draw?
I don't think it matters because the way goals don't count anymore. So,
just from a point of view, actually getting out there and scoring.
I mean, it would be nice to score a couple of goals, aye.
But a draw wouldn't be the worst result.
I know, Curry, but I'm trying to be positive, man. Right? Jesus. Honestly, I'm trying to be positive as I can, Curry, and you come in here with your negativity and you throw me out my game. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I still love you, but it's ridiculous. Okay, folks, that will do us for this Monday night. My massive thanks to everybody watching, everybody who's getting the comments, everybody who's subscribed, everybody who likes the show, everybody watching on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're watching from, wherever you get your Rabble fix. Thank you very, very much. Alan, Brian, thank you so much for your company tonight. Ian can't hear us, but thank you very much, Ian, for your company tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night. Because it's a later kick-off, I know that the reactions have changed, but because it's a later kick-off, straight after the game, the reaction will be tomorrow night. So we'll be back tomorrow night, round about 10 minutes after the final whistle. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Alan, Brian, Ian, thank you very much. And we'll speak to you all very, very soon.
Sports Social Podcast Network.